All right, welcome back. So this is a follow-up video to the product execution use case that we're walking through, because we walk through how to set the goal for TaskRabbit as a product manager on TaskRabbit. And now we're going into the part 2, which is basically the trade-off question. I've come up with a trade-off hypothetical scenario here for that first use case, and we're going to walk through how we're going to think about the trade-off question. Once again, the template that I'm going to be walking through in this example, I don't take credit for the template. Like I said in the first video, I've added a link to Ben Erez, who owns this framework, and Maven, just for anybody that is interested. So I don't take credit for this framework, but just the content and thinking around it is what I'm walking us through, which I did by myself. So let's get into the trade-off question. The prompt here is, let's say you are the PM for TaskRabbit, which is the scenario that we're working on. You are deciding between investing in 10 partnerships for new task categories or 10 partners in existing task category. Which would be better? I'm going to link the first video here for you to see how we've come to this point, because we landed on focusing on the home services partners for the next 3 to 6 months, and we set some goals. So the trade-off question here is now, okay, we've landed on home service partnerships as what we want to focus on. How would you decide between investing in 10 partners in new task categories that do not exist on TaskRabbit yet, or 10 partners in task categories that already exist on TaskRabbit? What will be the decision making rationale? For the trade-off, there are a couple of things that need to happen. We need to clarify what the trade-off is and just walk through how we're thinking about this. And clarifying the trade-off is basically walking through what exactly are we compromising for what. So let's start by describing it. So 10 partners in new task category is still 10 partners, and 10 partners in existing category is 10 partners. So TaskRabbit here is trying to decide, if we have budget for 10 partners to invest in, should we go after new categories or go after existing categories? But the thing is, the new service categories offer us more offerings in categories that we don't have. What we are looking at here is, are we going to go for new categories, or are we going to double down on the categories that we're currently focused on? What we need to also do is to frame that trade-off very carefully. We need to frame the trade-off in a way that identifies the pros and the cons of each of the options that we're trying to trade off here. The first option that we're looking at here is 10 partners for new task categories. The pros is that it's an opportunity for market expansion and opens TaskRabbit to new customer segments and untapped markets, because it's a new category entirely. It also gives us an opportunity for differentiation and helps TaskRabbit to stand out by offering services that some of their competitors may not have. It increases the reach and has growth opportunity for TaskRabbit, because yes, it's a new market category. But the disadvantage of going after this is there's already low demand for new categories on TaskRabbit because it doesn't exist, right? And there's an uncertain return on this investment. Like, going after new categories, are we even sure that there's demand for it from our users? There's also the operational complexity that now we have to manage more categories, support and training, and decide on quality assurance to make sure that we're able to serve our users well in those categories. And also the dilution of focus, because hey, if we now have to divert resources and divert our quality assurance and support for new task categories, how does this impact the categories that we currently support? Those are the cons. Now, if we're considering the second option of TaskRabbit exploring opportunities in categories of existing tasks, so going after partners that are already doing some work within the categories of tasks that they currently support. The advantages of that is there's already a proven demand. So people are already on TaskRabbit trying to get those tasks done anyways. So there's already a proven demand. They're established in that category. It reduces the risk of failure. There's a faster return on investment. They don't have to do any form of new training or new support. They just plug in the partners, and then the users are able to make their demands and the taskers fulfill those needs. And they already have a strong reputation in those categories anyways. Like, if I'm looking for someone to install my wall mount, I'll go on TaskRabbit because I know they've done it before. But if I'm looking for someone to do a new task category that doesn't exist on TaskRabbit, I'm going to be a bit hesitant. The advantage of that is there might be a market saturation that leads to diminishing returns, because there's already a lot of taskers in those categories. There's already a lot of businesses that offer services in those categories. So the growth may be limited for TaskRabbit in that area, and there's a complacency risk that, oh, we're already used to this. So those are the disadvantages of investing in 10 partners in the existing categories that TaskRabbit currently supports. So after outlining these pros and cons, one needs to summarize the trade-off here. Like, what are we trading off? For them to understand what is this decision between. So it's a trade-off between a broader reach versus a deeper reach. The broader reach helps us to fulfill more types of needs that users have in their everyday life that TaskRabbit does not currently support. And then the deeper need means providing an opportunity for us to be able to fulfill more of those needs faster and be more reliable for our customers. Once we've summarized this trade-off, what we then need to do is to make a decision and justify that decision with our rationale, tying down to everything that we've said from the beginning, starting from the mission of TaskRabbit, the North Star metric, the goals, and the ecosystem player that we're focused on. So that's how you make a decision. So I'm saying here, again, this doesn't have to be your own answer. Like I said in the first video, in a real life situation, you have more context about the business, what they've done, what worked, what did not work, why it didn't work, and things like that. You have more context to be able to make a more rational and well thought out decision because you are part of the business. However, in an interview, they're also not trying to make sure that you are right or wrong. They're trying to see how you walk through an example and how you arrive at a decision given enough context. They are aware that you are not part of the business. So I'm not part of TaskRabbit. I'm approaching it with very limited context. So you don't have to arrive at the conclusion that I arrived at in this example if you're walking through this example. And so my decision with a rationale is that given TaskRabbit's mission, we have to always tie it back to the mission. We already said the mission at the beginning is that we want to transform lives by connecting people with local taskers that help with everyday tasks. That mission helps us to come to a decision. And we're saying that giving TaskRabbit's mission to transform lives by connecting people with local taskers to help with everyday tasks. And considering that we're focusing on everyday tasks, I would choose option A, new categories, not the existing categories. Because I'm considering that one, TaskRabbit's maturity in completing tasks in the current category they currently support. They are well mature in that area of the existing task categories. They are well mature. They have enough taskers in the existing categories. They have enough demand. They are well known for the categories that they currently support. So I will consider focusing on new categories that help customers get more types of tasks done that they encounter in their daily life. So they are well known for the categories that they are established in, but I'm going to consider more categories because that's also more work that people need done, and that ties to their mission of transforming lives by connecting people with local taskers. So we're looking at connecting people with local taskers in more task categories that TaskRabbit doesn't currently support. One thing that is important when we're making a decision is that we need to explain what needs to change in order for us to change our trade-off option. So it also helps us to highlight the fact that we're not saying this is 100% assured. We are saying that let's look at how things go and we can decide when these things change. So the rationale has been stated, but the reason why I might change my stance is one, if the data shows that there's lower demand for other task categories. I may change my answer if the data show that there's lower demand for the new task categories that we're supporting, because we already highlighted it as a drawback for that option. I'm also going to change my mind if the economic sustainability favored a smaller subset of task categories, meaning that our operational efficiency, our ability to support, or even the task categories that we're already great at, are they now negatively impacted because we're overstretching ourselves too thin? Those are the things that will make me have to change my mind on what we've decided as the option to go for. That's how I would frame my decision. So this just gives your team or the interviewer in any case the ability to see that you are keeping an eye on all the options. You're not saying this is a done deal. You have the right benchmarks that you have set that help you change your mind if you need to. You're not just making a decision assuming it's the right decision. You have set some benchmarks to decide, I'm going to change my mind if these things become true. And so that's it. That's the trade-off exercise for this example that I've given us. you could walk through this example by yourself using a different rationale and arrive at a different ecosystem player to focus on and come up with a different trade-off question if you have to. But the most important thing that I want you to take out of this is the ability to run through this exercise and practice and get good at it in your actual product management role and career, and be able to use this as an example when you are engaging with your team or setting the goals for your product or a feature that you're considering. Yeah, that's it, guys. I hope to do a lot more other examples like this, either product execution or product design use cases, and maybe even some more goal setting and trade-off examples in the near future. And I hope this was helpful for you. I'll catch you in the next video.